Let's meet the American League All-Star team. From the Toronto Blue Jays, Ricky Romero.
In 2011, Ricky Romero was on top of the world, an all-star, an ace, and the future of the Toronto Blue Jays organization. But just 4 years later, he was gone. On episode 1 of Lost in the Archives, we take a look at the rise and fall of Ricky Romero, the ace who vanished. Before he blossomed into one of the best pitchers in baseball, Romero was the pride of East Los Angeles and a first-round pick with sky-high expectations. A graduate of Theodore Roosevelt High School, in his senior year he was named LA City Section Co-Player of the Year and Eastern League Co-MVP, going 12-1 with a 0.53 ERA and 162 strikeouts. Drafted 6th overall in 2005, Romero was seen as the next homegrown arm in Toronto's organization and a flicker of light for a franchise that had not been to the postseason since 1993.
Reflecting on the career of Ricky Romero and his time in the MLB, he really resembled a glimmer of hope for me because as a 24-year-old kid who wasn't old enough to remember those 92 and 93 Blue Jays teams, and as a kid who grew up playing baseball his entire life, Romero was kind of this hope for me as a Blue Jays fan because in the early 2000s, the Jays really struggled. They hadn't made the playoffs and they were consistently in the bottom of the AL East. And then suddenly this homegrown ace that had come through the organization and looked like he was going to be one of the best pitchers in baseball. And then he had that magical 2011 season, over 15 wins, a sub-3 ERA, and then suddenly one of Toronto's own was in the All-Star game.
Yeah, I think for me it was the same. Some of my earliest memories of watching the Blue Jays were when Ricky Romero came up and when he was playing really well. And yeah, there wasn't a ton else to be excited about with the Blue Jays at the time. And it was a little bit of a hint of what we'd see a few years later. Even though he wasn't a part of the 2015, it was kind of the first sign that things were looking up for the franchise.
And even the rotation around him wasn't very good compared to other teams around baseball, but it felt like every fifth day when Romero went out, the Blue Jays were going to win. He had one of the best curveballs in baseball. The command was so good. A classic left-handed windup, and it felt like when he was out there, they just weren't going to lose.
Yeah, you were able to trust him, I think, in a way that fans weren't really able to do with any other pitchers in the Blue Jays lineup or rotation at the time. But the now 40-year-old's path to the major leagues was far from straightforward. Romero spent 3 years in the minor leagues with multiple seasons cut short due to shoulder and elbow issues. When he finally made his debut in 2009, it felt like the start of something special.
Swing and a miss. Got it. Down goes Ordonez.
Romero made his major league debut on April 9th, 2009 against the Detroit Tigers. The pitching matchup of Romero and Rick Porcello was the first time in MLB history that two first-round pitchers made their debut against each other. Romero came out on top that day, giving up 2 runs and 7 hits in 6 innings of a 6-2 Blue Jays win. It was the beginning of an incredible rookie campaign. In his second major start, Romero pitched 8 innings, giving up 2 runs against the Minnesota Twins. Although the Twins won that game 3-2 in extra innings, it was another strong showing from the pitcher. In his third career MLB start on April 19, 2009, Romero pitched 7 scoreless innings against the Oakland Athletics. The Blue Jays won the game 1-0, giving Romero a 2-0 record to start his career. The next day, however, Romero was placed on the 15-day injured list. He had strained his oblique muscle from, of all things, a sneeze. That was a preview of what would be the story of Romero's career: brilliance marred by injury. After returning from injury, Romero had an incredible run of form during June and July of 2009. On July 6th, he tied the franchise rookie record for consecutive scoreless innings with 24. Romero had another strong season in 2010. He recorded his first complete game shutout on May 15th in a 6-0 win over the Texas Rangers. He also matched his career high in strikeouts at 12. Romero's best season was in 2011. He made the only All-Star appearance of his career. He pitched 4 complete games and 4 shutouts. During the month of August, Romero had a 5-0 record. His ERA that month was 2.05, the lowest in the majors. Romero was named as the Pitcher of the Month for August. 2012 started out all right for Romero. On June 22nd, he held an 8-1 record. From there, however, Romero struggled immensely. He finished the season with a 9-14 record. His ERA of 5.77 was the highest in the MLB. While no injuries were reported for Romero during the season, he later said that he had been suffering from knee pain. Romero spent most of the 2013 season in the minors. He made only 2 starts for the Blue Jays, losing both. His only other appearances with the Blue Jays were as a reliever in September. He finished the season with an 11.05 ERA in 7 1/3 innings. Romero never made another big league appearance, nor did he record another win at any level of organized baseball. He was invited to the Blue Jays spring training in 2015 before being released by the organization shortly after. Following a brief stint with the San Francisco Giants AAA affiliate, Romero ultimately chose to retire from baseball in 2018.
Now, relating Ricky Romero to other homegrown Blue Jays pitchers in the organization, I look at the career of Alek Manoah, who was, after his rookie season, looked like he was going to be one of the best pitchers in baseball. He had one of the best second seasons I've ever seen, one of the most dominant young-handed arms in the league. And then suddenly, he's designated as the Blue Jays opening day starter just a few seasons later. And then the wheels just fell off. He battled a ton of injuries. And then we just saw a few weeks ago, he was designated for assignment. And I'm just reflecting on what goes wrong for these homegrown arms where suddenly they're dynamic and they look like they're going to be a stalwart in the Blue Jays pitching rotation for the next 10 seasons. And then suddenly just a few seasons later, they're gone.
Yeah, it's interesting to kind of see the same cycle repeat itself with Alek Manoah. And it's definitely one thing I've thought about because when Alek Manoah was DFA'd, in came Trey Savage, this 22-year-old phenom who, just had the greatest start for a rookie in a postseason game for the Blue Jays. And part of me worries that you'll see the cycle repeat again, but I do question why these guys aren't able to continue at that level long term. And I do wonder that with Savage, one, I would hope that although what happened with Ricky Romero was a long time ago, Alek Manoah being much more recent, that the organization would learn from those mistakes. I think one thing that is very promising is you think back to that start for Savage in Game 2 of the ALDS, and John Schneider pulled him when he was still at 78 pitches. He was still good. He still looked great and was still doing very well, but they seemed to at least have the wherewithal to know not to push him too far before it all went wrong and just take him out of the game while he's still hot.
It is nice to see it was a guy who didn't make very many starts in the minor leagues before coming up to AAA, and he's only made a few starts at the big league level. So them monitoring his pitch count and where his arm's at was, like you said, really, really good to see, just monitoring his overall health as he gets more forward in his career.
Romero was supposed to be a homegrown ace and the future of the Blue Jays. Instead, he became the ace who vanished and got lost in the archives.